phone here. Okay, got it. Okay, so what did we do so far again? Mantra 1, what we study in Mantra 1. What is Mantra 1? Long, long ago we did Mantra 1. What was the essence of Mantra 1? That the Supreme Lord is the owner, proprietor of everything. And when we know that, then naturally what should happen? We should want to surrender, offer everything to him, right? And then mantra 2 said, if we work with that mood, then you can live for hundreds of years. Because usually our tendency is that when we don't have ownership or controllership over something, then we think, what's there for me? Why should I engage in this? Because there's no enjoyment for me. So we just tend to not invest ourselves. But the reality is that we can never be inactive. We learn that even in Bhagavad Gita, nahi kaschit shanamapi, right? That we cannot, the soul cannot be inactive. And even at least we have to move our jaw to eat. We have to do some work to maintain ourselves. So, we have to work, and better to work according to the recommendation of Shastra, to not get entangled in karma. And then mantra 3 is all about taking responsibility, and it's a little bit scary verse. It's a little bit of a heavy verse, but that's just meant to shake us up a little bit and say, take your responsibility seriously. Don't blow your human form of life. Don't become a killer of the soul. And then mantra 4, we discussed last time also, and that discussed some of the qualities of the Isha, right? The Lord that we're studying about. So some of the qualities were discussed. And mantra 5 will continue also with that same theme. And like we said, in ISOPANISAD, the mantras kind of go in pairs and threes, they're like echoes. So mantra 5 will have many elements that were there in mantra 4 also, but yet it's a little different. So let's get into it. Let me share my screen. Right. 5. Oops, Zoom quit unexpectedly. Is it mine? Is it yours? I don't understand.
You are still there, Mataji.
We can see you.
I'm there.
I can see you.
Yeah, but
Only thing is your PPT is not visible.
here. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. All right.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah.
So Zoom did something weird. So I don't know what it did, but here we are back again. Okay. So mantras 4 and 5. So mantra 4, we saw that the inconceivable Lord is known only through revelation and not by mental speculation. And mantra 5 will further speak about Krishna's inconceivable potencies, because Krishna is inconceivable, so we cannot know him unless he actually shows himself to us by his grace. So let's read mantra 4 again too, the translation. Although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he controls those who supply the air and rain, he surpasses all in excellence. I hope you're paying attention, because I'm going to ask you a question. And then mantra 5, the Supreme Lord, actually let's read the verse, chant the verse. Tadejati tannaijati tadure tvadantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyataha. Okay, translation. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He's far away, but he's very near as well. He's within everything, and yet he's outside of everything. So, what are the similarities between the two verses? Is there something similar? What do you see similar? And what do you see different? Simple question. It's not a complex question. Just to speak.
He's inconceivable. How can one walk and not walk?
He's
Okay. Okay. What else? Anything else?
he is beyond our expectations or our imaginations.
Okay. He's beyond our imagination, beyond the range of our senses. Yeah.
Can overcome all others running.
Okay. Overcome all others running. All right. Yeah. And both of them have these paradoxes, right? That's something very similar. You know, it's like yes, but no, stop, but go. It's like that. So, you know, and both are kind of materially impossible, this kind of paradox. It's like either you walk or you don't walk, either you're far or you're near, but how can you be both, right? So it's like a paradox. So then so this, in this verse, there's three contradictions like the last verse: walk but does not walk, far away but near, and within everything and outside of everything. So Prabhupada says right in the purport, he says, the contradictions given here prove the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. Just 1 second, I'm going to minimize this. Yeah. He walks and he does not walk. Ordinarily, if someone can walk, it's illogical to say he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such a contradiction simply serves to indicate his inconceivable power. So these contradictions indicate inconceivable power. And Jiva Goswami says in the Sandarbhas, he says actually that, you know, you cannot understand God without first accepting that the Lord has inconceivable powers. If that's just like a given thing. If you cannot accept that he's inconceivable, you can never know. Actually, there was one philosopher who said that, who wrote actually, that I can't remember the name of this philosopher, but he said, God who can be understood is actually not interesting to me, because if one can understand everything about God, you know, how can he be God? You know, God has to be something beyond everything. He must include everything, right? Like what did Lord Brahma also say in his prayers, you know, after the whole Brahma Vimohan Leela, he offers prayers and he says that I cannot understand anything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even he says, you may count all the atoms in the universe, but still you cannot understand the Supreme. So there's another mathematician named Kurt Gödel, Kurtgodel. And he was a famous mathematician, and he had this completeness theorem where he says that if some system is complete, you know, then there must be some contradictions within it. You can never have something complete and not have contradictions. So Upanishads, you know, they're describing the absolute truth completely. So there are contradictions, there are paradoxes, and, you know, things are going to be beyond our material logic. You know, they're going to challenge us a little bit, right? So now, what do these contradictions prove? One is, of course, as we heard from Prabhupada, he has inconceivable potencies. So this is to help you out with your questions, question bank, all that. So he has, what do contradictions prove? If you have a question, he has inconceivable potencies. He is the Supreme Lord, right? And he's both impersonal and he's personal at the same time, because these two are contradictions. The Mayavadis will say that, the Lord is just his energy. If he's a person, how can he be distributed everywhere? And they give the example of, like a paper. If you tear paper up, and then there's no longer that original paper. The paper is distributed everywhere. But a devotee understands that he's both impersonal and personal. And these various contradictions also prove that we are completely limited, totally limited in our understanding. And so we need Krishna's grace, Krishna's mercy to actually understand anything about him. And the statements in these two verses, when different people read these statements, they will approach it in different ways. If a devotee reads them, of course, he just understands that the Lord has inconceivable potencies. But if a materialist or an atheist were to read these same statements, he may say that, oh, this is just mumbo jumbo, this is illogical. This is just mythological stories or philosophies. And they think, yeah, now I understand these, Hare Krishna people, these God-conscious people, what kind of intelligence they have or what kind of faith they operate on. Because for materialists, everything that they're thinking about, the whole basis of their living is just, they see only matter. So they see whatever laws of nature they see in front of their eyes, they think, that's all it is. But because this is something beyond the laws of nature, they cannot understand. And so therefore, then they say, like Prabhupada quotes this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Avajananti Mamura Manushantanam Ashata, 9:11, right? So the materialists will say, yeah, if the Lord descends, then, he's actually not, God. He's just an ordinary person or just a powerful person. That's all. And then, of course, the impersonalists, they actually, like these kind of statements in the Shastra because, then they can, turn it around through word jugglery and then make it suit, their conclusions, right? Because they use something called, gauna vritti. Gauna vritti means that they go about things in an indirect way, catching the nose through the other way, like that. So they just philosophize and they will just stress on the Lord does not walk. The Lord is far away. That means that, he's actually just an energy. You cannot actually catch him. And they may even sometimes erase certain parts and then just change things around to just suit their theory of monism. So, but we don't want to do that. For us, if we are accepting scriptures, we want to accept the whole thing as it is, right? Not like accept one part, but then twist the other thing to suit our conclusions, right? And, there's a famous story. I'm sure you'll know this story, but, Narad Muni, he meets this Brahmana and, the Brahmana says, oh, if you're going to see the Lord, can you please ask him when I'm going to come back to him? And Narada says, sure, I will ask him. And then he's going along and then he meets a cobbler under a tree. And, he also, the cobbler also says, Narad Muni, if you see the Lord, can you please ask him, when I'll come back to him? He says, surely. And Narad Muni, of course, he goes to the Lord and, he asks, when will both of them come back? And so the Lord says, well, the cobbler will come back after this life when he dies. And Narada then says, well, what about the Brahmana? He said, well, the Brahmana, I'm not sure. It will take several lifetimes. I'm not really sure. And then as Narada is leaving, Narada says, well, how is that possible? He says that you'll see, when you go back, you'll see. And the Lord says, when one of them, when they ask you, what I'm doing. You can tell that I'm threading the eye of a needle with an elephant. So Narad says, okay, I will do so. So first he goes to the Brahmana, and the Brahmana asks, okay, when am I going back? And, he says, well, it'll take, several lifetimes. And then he asks, what was he doing? He says he was threading the eye of a needle with an elephant. He says, come on, that cannot be true. You got to make some sense. And anyways, and then he goes to the cobbler, and, the same questions. And Narada says, you actually believe this? And the cobbler says, yeah, of course I believe it. If my Lord has put many, many banyan trees in one seed of a banyan tree, why cannot he thread the eye of a needle with an elephant? So anyway, so this is faith, right? Not like just accepting one thing and rejecting another part, being smarta, like, sticking to the rules and regulations, but then forgetting the essence. So now let us analyze a little bit some of the components of this verse. So how is the Lord far away? So the Lord is far away in the sense that he is beyond the material realm, totally beyond the material realm in Goloka Vrindavan, because material perspective means, we think in terms of time and space. But even if one travels at the speed of wind or mind, like last week we discussed Pantasta Koti Satavatsara Sampragamya, right? So even if you travel at the speed of wind or mind for millions of years and go through, all these different coverings of the universe, even through the hole that, Vamanadev made, then one comes to the Viraja river and one may see the millions of universes, and one may even enter the Brahmajyoti and continue, but one can still not reach, the Goloka Vrindavan planet. And why? Because the spiritual element, cannot be accessed by material elements. The spiritual element is unlimited, right? So he's also far. So this is one aspect of how he's far, but he's also far for the non-devotees. Like Hiranyakashipu, he tried, he couldn't, win with Lord Narasimha, or Hiranyaksha even, he felt like he caught hold of Varahadev, and he tried to like embrace him at one point, but then, when he tried to embrace, he just like wasn't there in his arms up, when he released, he looked down again, Varahadev was not there anymore. And of course, he's out of the reach of mind and senses. I think I said that already. It's an urgent call, but can I just, all right, I'll call back. So sometimes, so the Lord is also far in the sense that he is far out sometimes, like meaning, he marries 16,108 wives. I mean, that's like far out, he's far. Sometimes, of course, the Lord does things that in a way that we can relate with him, but sometimes he does things in a way that we cannot relate with him. So that's like he's far in that sense. At times, like when it comes to Hastinapur, at that time, he behaves very much in a relatable way, like he's offering obeisances to his superiors, he's, embracing his peers, and he's, giving blessings to the juniors and so on. So very much, things we can relate with. Okay. So now, how is the Lord near? So that was, how is the Lord far? Can some of you tell me how is the Lord near? What are some things? in ways in
The
which the
super
Lord is.
soul in everyone's heart.
He is in
Very
the
good.
altar, Mataji.
He's in the altar. Very good. I have
Hare
such nice
Krishna
devotees.
is in his Harinam is there, Mataji.
He is
Harinam.
there in his holy name. Very good. Where else is he there? He's very near to us. Huh?
He's in the heart
He's a
of it.
super soul.
Yeah, somebody said that already. He's there as a super soul. Yes. Anything else? I can't hear you.
He is there in every pastime. We hear about him.
He's there in every pastime. Yeah. So he's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Anything else? How is the Lord near?
He is there in every devotee.
Is there in every atom? Okay.
He's closest to his pure devotees.
Okay. Very good. Good answers, all of you.
He is there in every human being.
Okay, so that point has come up 3 times, that he's in the Paramatma. He's there as Paramatma.
He's there in the form of Govardhan Hill. So,
Okay, he's there as Govardhan Hill. Yeah, he's in our home as Govardhan. Okay, all right, very good answers. So sometimes we also hear this. Okay, you have to just give me just a second because my phone is just going a bit crazy. There's something urgent and I just need to check 1 second. Lord near. So sometimes we hear this analogy that for the devotees, the whole ocean of material existence, becomes like as small as the water contained in the hoof print of a calf, right? So in that sense, he's very near for us, for the devotees. Or also, devotees are not subject to time and space, right? For Prahlad Maharaj, somebody said that for pure devotees is very close, like for Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Narasimha, they manifested, or last week we were also speaking about the cowherd boys, how they, were running after Krishna and they try to catch Krishna. And, 2 cowherd boys, they come and say, Aham Purvam, I caught Krishna. And both of them say, I caught Krishna. And it seems like both of them caught him at the same time. And that can be true because, Krishna expands himself and both of them caught at the same time. He's near to both of them. So he's near for his pure devotees. And as Paramatma, as many of you said, he descends as different avatars, right? He is amongst us as avatars. Also, he hears our prayers, right? His power of hearing our prayers or hearing our heart, our thoughts, it extends everywhere. He can hear everything. He can hear everything even before we actually formulate our thought, so that's how near he is, and he is there as the deity form. And Prabhupada talks about the Archa Vigraha in the purport. If you've read the purport, you read it, right? The materialists think of the deity as just something made of matter, but actually Krishna is all powerful and it's all his energies, and so he can change the external energy into his internal energy. So the same material object, wood or metal or stone, completely turns into spiritual, his form. And, we know that these Archa Vigrahas, the deities, they're not just, any form, basically. These forms are carved according to Shastric injunctions, and there's a specific stone that has to be used or specific metals, and it's installed by an acharya. So and then the acharya requests the Lord to descend into his deity form, right? And the more we spiritualize our eyes, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochane, the more we will be able to see the Lord. One time, Srila Prabhupada was giving a class in his Vyasasana, and Srila Prabhupada was looking at the deities, and he said, Radha and Krishna are dancing very happily today. And all the devotees, they were looking around, they were looking at each other, and, they only saw Radha and Krishna just standing, just like that. But, Srila Prabhupada could see much more than that. And of course, you all said holy name, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Holy Dham. He's so close to us. In the Holy Dham, Krishna is very, very, near, because Holy Dham, literally, it's like there's just like a thin veil of curtain, if you will, between the material and spiritual. And it's so easy to access Krishna in the Holy Dham. And he's also very close to us as the external manifestation of the Paramatma in the form of a guru, right? So we don't hear Krishna, we don't hear our Paramatma in our heart. So then Krishna comes outside as the guru. He comes out and he instructs us also. So this whole closeness with the Lord, it's not just physical closeness, as we all understand, but the closeness is one of intimacy of the heart. And Prabhupada says in page 38 for me, this is my old book, but he says, yet when the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes before us, we neglect him. Such foolish negligence is condemned by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna comes near by his grace. This is all his so many forms of mercy to come very close to us. And yet, what do we do when he comes so close to us? Do we neglect him? Or how do we regard him? How do we regard him in the holy name? Because the moment you chant the holy name, Krishna is there. But then are we there to perceive the closeness with him? Or are we checked out? We go for Mangalarti in the morning and, Krishna is there. But where are our thoughts? Are we thinking about, okay, how long? And I'm hungry, I'm sleepy, I can't wait to go back and go to bed again or something like that, So what are, we thinking about? Krishna is very eager to come close to us. So that's something for us to, consider. We may think that, oh, this applies only to materialists or impersonalists, but actually we neglect the Lord in so many ways too. This is from Urmila Mataji's book, but the inconceivable Lord may be far or near, but he's revealed to those who are dear. So one is reading the book, How to Know Krishna. One is reading the book, How to Forget Krishna. And here's a quote by Prabhupada. He's far away, but he's very near as well. And at the same time, Antike, very near. Just like Krishna is standing here, one has to understand, very near. He has kindly come to you, near, so near that you can touch his lotus feet. You can offer him some foodstuffs. You can decorate him. He's agreeing, yes, I will accept. How does he accept? That is called durastham, very, very far away. At the same time, antike, immediately. Provided you know the means. If you know, then you can see. That is God's power. He can remain far, far away, but he can immediately be approachable by the devotees. That's from a Bhagavad Gita lecture. And again, a small quote about Archa Vigraha. The Lord can appear in the form of the Archa Vigraha, a deity supposedly made of earth, stone, or wood. Deity forms are not idols. The Lord appears in a so-called material form to accept his devotees' service. They are factually worshipping the Lord. This can be actually felt by a sincere devotee, but not by an atheist. This is actually right from the purport. So then the next part, next contradiction, how does he walk and not walk? Yeah, so what are the different ways he walks? So he has, a transcendental body. So he walks with his transcendental body. He also walks as an Archa Vigraha. Do you remember which deity walked? Several deities, but one famous story. Which is the deity that walked?
Sakshi
Long
Gopal.
Gopal.
Yes, long distance he walked. And is there another deity who did something for one very dear devotee? He stole something. He stole something.
Kirachara Gopinath.
Yes, Shirachora Gopinath. Yes.
Also
Very nice.
Udupi.
Yes, Udupi too. Yes. Yes. As an avatar, also he walks and he leaves his footprints, for us to worship. And even as universal form, he has thousands and thousands of feet, so he can walk. And at the same time, how is it that he does not walk? So in his impersonal feature, he does not walk. He's just all pervading. He's everywhere already. So in that sense, he does not have to walk, right? And it also means that he belongs to a different dimension. So he does not walk, the way we walk. One time, actually, I think I have a slide here. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada was taking a walk with his son. So he says, just like crude example I give you, that the sun and at noontime, it is on your head, and somebody walking eastern side or western side, he also sees the sun is walking with him. Long ago, about 40 years ago, when I was a householder, my second son, he was 4 years old. He was walking with me and he said, "Oh, Father, why the moon is coming with us?" This is very intelligent, Prabhupada said. Yes. So similarly, if a material object can walk so swiftly, you've seen, you're going on airplane or train, you'll see the moon or sun is going with you. So how it is not possible that Krishna cannot walk, although he is situated? So this is from Prabhupada's lecture on Mantra 5. So, and he's also within and outside. So within as Paramatma, within our heart, and also he's within as the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who is basically like the super soul of the entire universe, is within this universe, and then outside as a material energy or universal form. Any questions so far? We have still a little bit more of this chapter, if there's anything so far.
Mataji, is it true that it is commonly accepted that the universal form is not a real form? It's just a sum total of all of his energies in one place.
So yeah, the universal form is very mysterious, not easy to understand. But universal form is not real only in the sense that it is temporary. It's not just, oh, it's fictitious. It's not like that. So, very much there, but not, some in the second and third canto, universal form is described also sometimes as the blueprint for the whole, creation. So it's there, but there is no universal form in the spiritual world. It's just in the material world. So like that. But yeah, we don't want to get more deep into universal form discussion because anyway, it's complex. I can forward, if I can find it easily, I can forward one lecture on universal form that I think it was Dhruta Karma Prabhu. Maybe you can hear that. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Mataji. That would be nice.
Yes, yeah, okay. All right, anything else?
Mataji, he is within and outside. Outside, we can say that he is as a guru, right? As you said earlier also.
That's, yeah, we could certainly say outside he's as a guru. Sure,
Hmm.
we can use that example. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Paramatma within, and yeah, sure. Okay. So then Prabhupada talks about two words, saguna and nirguna, right? So the Lord is both saguna and nirguna. The devotee understands that, right? What does saguna mean? Saguna means full of qualities, if you just simply take the word sa and guna. But we understand that the Lord is full of transcendental qualities. He doesn't have any material qualities. So, right, he doesn't have qualities, but what qualities does he not have? He doesn't have material qualities. And the impersonalists, the way they process this word saguna, is that they say that it's referring to the material qualities of Brahman when he descends to this world. So they even make the qualities of the Lord as something temporary. Okay, they're there when the Lord descends, but then otherwise, he's impersonal. There's no form, there's no qualities, and so on. So, and we understand that the material energy, it works according to Krishna's direction. So therefore, he can use that energy for his purposes, without ever being influenced by any material qualities at all. And then nirguna basically means he has no material qualities. And the impersonal aspect, the Brahman, you can say, is nirguna. It's the eternal, formless glow. It's like the manifestation of the Lord without qualities. And also nirguna can mean that even when the Lord, takes a material form or he descends to this world, he's not under any laws of nature. So just something to remember. So this section, what Prabhupada is showing to us is this whole Achintya Veda, Veda Tattva. And ultimately, we understand that God is everywhere. So this is from the purport. We'll just read it. The Lord is within everything, and he creates everything by his different energies. Through his inconceivable powers, he can appear at any place in order to favor his sincere devotee. The fact is that there is nothing but God within and without. Everything is a manifestation of his different energies, like the heat and light emanating from a fire. And in this way, there is a oneness among his diverse energies. So he's everywhere. And although he's everywhere, there's also oneness, right? Although there is oneness, further, so this is our bhakti philosophy. So there was the personal, the impersonal, and then the synthesis between the two, right? Although there's oneness, however, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys unlimitedly all the pleasures enjoyed minutely by the tiny part and parcel living entities. So in quality, we and the Lord are the same, but if you don't desire him, we are to blame. So finally, how can or who can understand these contradictions? What does Prabhupada say in the purport? He quotes Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajamyaham. So the Lord says that how he treats his devotee actually depends on the devotee's degree of surrender. So depending on how we accept him, how we approach him, how we surrender to him, based on that, he will show himself to us. For a sincere devotee, for a surrendered soul, he's always within reach because he's always seeking him. This is very, very important. That's why I highlighted it. He's always seeking him. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he was always seeking the Lord. I mean, circumstances can be worse than Prahlad Maharaj. None of our circumstances we can say is worse than that. But the Lord became present because he was always searching after him, right? Here's also, this is from the Bible actually, but it's a famous prayer from the Matthew. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh, receiveth. And he that seeketh, findeth. And to him that knocketh, it shall be opened. So just wanted to kind of focus on this, zoom in on this a little bit, because sometimes we say that our life is really an answer to our questions, right? If we don't like our current life, if we don't like the situations in our life right now, we kind of have to question our questions. You know, what are the questions that are really moving us right now? You know, what is that, you know, intention in my heart based on which I'm trying to keep going forward? Sometimes also we're, you know, some difficult situation, and maybe we're asking some questions, but it seems like the difficult situation doesn't seem to change, or we're not finding also some resources to help us through that, or we're not just feeling any strength or even shelter of the Lord. Sometimes it's possible. And during such times, you know, we can kind of go back and see what are the kind of questions I'm asking. Because the Lord, you know, he wants us very much. And if we actually are seeking him, he will show himself in one way or another. You know, so maybe we have to change the nature of our questions sometimes, because he's a person and he's very near to us and he listens to our prayers. He's in the holy name, all these things, you know, we said. But if still we're not finding him, then it just means that we have to seek maybe in a different way. So our ability to see Krishna depends on our eagerness and our degree of surrender. So I'll just leave you with this personal reflection exercise. What are we seeking? What are our questions about? And you can try to practice asking questions in connection or in relationship with the Lord. Because maybe sometimes we're asking questions, but the questions have you know, more to do with maybe just our comfort, our peace, our satisfaction in some way, you know, or our gratification in some way, right? So am I asking the questions because I want to serve the Lord? So you can check yourself. Okay, so let's stop there with mantra 5. Any questions, comments so far? Corrections, reflections?
So can you please?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Devotees are trained not to ask anything to the Lord, including mukti. So how do we understand the Matthew 7.7?
Yeah, so we don't want to ask something for our sense gratification, right? But we can certainly ask the Lord, you know, questions connected to him, as I said, you know, like, how can I serve him better? Okay, there is some obstacle. Krishna, what do you want me to learn through this obstacle? Or how do you want me to serve in this difficult situation? Those are good questions to ask, because, you know, I think sometimes in our modern world, we're taught so much to be self-sufficient. To ask someone is considered a weakness, actually. So I think even the way we understand, okay, you shouldn't ask the Lord something, it's a little bit tainted with that as we can't ask anything, you know. But the fact of the matter is, what can we do by ourselves? We can't do anything by ourselves, you know. We need, you know, God-given intelligence to figure out anything. It's not, you know, independently we cannot do anything, right? So certainly we can ask the Lord those questions of how can I come closer to you? How can I serve you in this situation? I feel a lot of confusion. In fact, a lot of times in our life, we may find that there's lack of clarity, lack of confusion. And this lack of clarity is actually because we're not dialoguing enough with the Lord, because he's there. So we can talk to him. He's a person. He's on our altar. He's happy to hear from us. He's actually so happy to hear from us. In the Vedic culture, actually, it was such a practice that every morning, of course, they offered prayers and so on and sought the blessings of the Lord. But also at the end of the day, they would go to the Lord and give a little report of the whole day, basically, feeling so accountable, having this whole conversation with the Lord every day. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So it's not that, I shouldn't ask anything. We should ask, have a conversation. And one more thing I'll say, in our Nectar of Devotion, we learned the definition of pure devotional service. And in that, we learned what are the primary components and the secondary components. The secondary is, jnana, karma, the anavritam, and anyabhilashita sunyam, right? But these secondary part of the definition, they are indicating purity of bhakti. But bhakti itself is anukulina Krishna anushilanam. Jnana karma di anavritam and anyabhilashita sunyam, that's not bhakti, so to say. That's just like a qualifier, further qualifier for bhakti. So I think sometimes we worry too much about purity. Oh, I shouldn't ask anything from the Lord. That's the purity part. But no, go to the Lord first. Go to the Lord for all things. Akama sarva kamava. Go to the Lord at all times because that's bhakti. And then we can worry about making that more pure. I always appreciate, when I go to Vrindavan and stuff and I spend some extended period of time, you see like these simple ladies, simple men too. But, they just go to the Lord for everything. They'll even like buy a sari. They'll say, can you put it at the lotus feet of Radha Shyama and give it back? They'll give the sari to the pujari. They'll buy a new bead bag and give it to the pujari. Can you touch it to the feet? In one sense, you can say it's cute. It's a sentiment. But it's also their bhakti in a way. There's simplicity. They just go to the Lord for everything. They may not have the purity, but they have a relationship with the Lord. But what's the point of having purity without the substance? So go to the Lord. Yes. And if you're asking something wrong to him, he will correct that. No worries. Okay. Alrighty, so we're done with mantra 5. Shall we go to 6 or do you want a 5-minute break? Shall we go to mantra 6? Okay, let's go to mantra 6. Okay. Do you see the full screen or you see the presenter view? Because something funny happened again with my thing.
We can see the full screen, but not now. Now I can see the slide sorter.
Okay, hold on just a second. So I don't know why technology doesn't act the same way all the time. Let me find the Zoom back. Okay, this should be correct. Is that good?
Yes, Mataji.
All right, okay. So now mantra 6 to 8, they're going to talk about the vision of a Mahabhagavat, right? So we heard about the qualities of the Lord. Who is the Lord? Now we're going to hear about who can see the Lord and how much, the different grades of devotees can see the Lord. So this is a vision of Mahabhagavat. And again, 6 and 7, they're like a couplet, but we'll only cover 6 today. 7 and 8 next time. So mantra 6, again, the connection. Mantra 5, describe the qualities, including the presence within all things. And 6 describes the person who has the capacity to factually appreciate the Lord, seeing him in all things. And the main theme through these verses, a spiritually advanced devotee sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, and to develop this vision, one should follow in the footsteps of such great souls. So let's read mantra 6. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijagupsate. He who sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. And I thought we could also quickly read mantra 7, because there's similarities here. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in quality one with the Lord becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? So there's, one word that is very similar in both of them. That is anupashyati or anupashyata. That is, seeing. And this is systematically seeing. And we'll discuss what that means, systematically seeing or following. So these 2 mantras, they're describing the vision of a Bhagavata, how he actually sees the reality, because knowledge actually means to see things as they are. So he's really seeing things as they are, and he has the vision of Prema. He loves Krishna, so he sees everything in connection to Krishna. So the vision of Lord everywhere, right? And so when he's seeing this vision of Lord everywhere, then he becomes situated beyond the influence of time. So in the spiritual world, there's no time. So wherever the Lord is, there is the spiritual world. And no influence of time means then there's no past, future like that, right? So in text 7, there are these 2 words, illusion or anxiety, right? So anxiety is connected with which phase of time? What are you anxious about? Something in the past or something in future?
Future.
Something in future, right? So there's no anxiety, so that's future. And there's also no lamentation, although it's not explicitly mentioned here, but shoka, actually it's there, shoka. Somehow Prabhupada doesn't put it in the translation, but the verse has it, shoka. Shoka includes lamentation and anxiety, I guess. So lamentation is about past, and then illusion is actually present, right? So then after this, Prabhupada goes into discussing the Lord's presence is realized in 3 stages, right? So basically, how are the different levels of devotees perceiving the Lord? So I think all of you know the answers to this, so I'm going to expect you to answer me. So what is the first level of perception of Lord's presence? Kanishta Adhikari, right? How does he see the Lord? Or where does he see the Lord?
As a deity in the temple.
Only in the
Deity in the temple. How does he see others? Does he see the connection with others?
No.
No. Okay. What else? What else do you know about Kanishta Adhikari?
They're neophytes.
They're neophytes, and they fight sometimes, right? They create newer and newer fights. That's called neophytes, new fights. And why do they fight?
As a ritualistic activities, kind of.
Okay, very good. And why do they fight? Why do they fight?
Is the ways of
Understanding is
sadhana,
new.
Mataji.
Huh?
They see differences.
They see differences. And so, okay, they see differences, but why do you have to fight about it?
My way is the right and your way is not right.
Because
Yeah,
they're
so
still
they
on,
see something as,
they're still
yeah.
on the material platform.
yeah, so they see something as higher, something as lower, right? And so then they cannot actually discriminate properly. And they become really kind of very attached to certain details. And they forget what's the essence because they haven't captured the essences from the Shastras yet. Their faith is very soft, right? And they don't have depth in their knowledge. So therefore, they don't capture the essence. So then they get lost in the details and they see that, and even the details, they like the details that give them some comfort or glorification, or, they get something out of it basically. And then, they become attached to it. And so they don't like someone else who's not following those same details, right? So sometimes it happens that, husband, wife, they have different spiritual master. And if they're not mature, they're always fighting over the details. But my spiritual master said this, and, my spiritual master said that, So here is the first level of perception. Just a little summary there, right? Just everything that you all said. Considers one type of devotion better than other. So already there's clues in the bottom of the slide, but I want to ask you, how does this show itself in our ISKCON? How does this apply, Kanishta? What are the problems due to Kanishta based on this? Would somebody tell? We can use the clues at the bottom of the slide. But
Factions.
yeah, factions, yes. Fanaticism, as you can see, offenses. So sometimes there is also, because they see Krishna on the altar and they don't see in other places, so there can be sometimes overemphasis on worshiping Krishna, in the deity form. But simultaneously, that's not by itself a bad thing, but it's not balanced. They just tend to maybe neglect the care of devotees sometimes, right? Because they don't see devotees sometimes in connection to Krishna. Or they'll offer obeisances to the Lord, but not to the devotees, or somebody may, behave well in the temple, but then outside, completely different, just like a hardcore materialist. There was one devotee like that I knew when I was young. And I mean, he used to inspire me. He seemed like he had so much bhakti, but then I saw him one time yelling on the phone with someone. I was like, wow, is it the same person? So, we can be completely like materialists, or sometimes, devotees may, visit the temple or come for the programs only when their spiritual master comes. But then otherwise, they just disregard everyone else. That is also kind of the same Kanishta mentality. Or, there could be backbiting sometimes, or rumors, or there could be quarrels between, different departments, between the book distribution, Food for Life, and Goshala, and the school, and everybody takes Prabhupada quotes, and Prabhupada said this, and Prabhupada said that. Prabhupada said many things. And for Prabhupada, all parts of the mission were equally important, and everybody can engage according to their disposition. And everything is meant for elevating our consciousness. But neophytes may have, fights over it. So Prabhupada would say many times that at least, we should become elevated. We should come to the platform of a Madhyamadikari. Because a Kanishtadikari is practically, he says it in some places. So, I'm not saying this, but, practically speaking, he's not very useful for the guru. He's useless because the guru visits, the area, the yatra, the temple, and all the guru will hear about from a Kanishta devotee is, I have this problem, I have that problem, and they did this, and they're not cooperating. This is the kind of reports the guru will get. And so all the time of the guru just goes in solving these problems, but the guru, what is his main mission? He must talk about Krishna Katha and elevate our consciousness. And we don't get time then actually to hear the Guru's inner realizations in his relationship with Krishna. We don't get a glimpse of his vision of the Lord, right? Because they're just busy reporting all these problems that are happening, to the Guru. So that's a Kanishta. And a Kanishta also, because of all these things, because he cannot, recognize properly the different levels of devotees and so on, then what happens? He has some difficulty in getting good association, and they may not be able to stick to guidance. They do not place full faith in anyone. They may just, go here and there, like that, shopping, window shopping. And they just don't stick, and so they have difficulty engaging in meaningful association with devotees. So therefore, difficulty in progress, right? So now the Madhyam devotee. So what's the Madhyam devotee? He has 4 characteristics. I think all of you should know. So he shows compassion to the innocent. He adores the Lord. He avoids the envious or the atheists, and he makes friends with the devotees, right? And this is a very good position. This is actually a very advanced position. If we can come to the Madhyam platform, it's very good for us, because the Madhyamadikari knows how to discriminate, how to take good association, and how to really advance further in Krishna consciousness. So there are 2 main things. Basically, he knows how to take good association, and he adores the Lord. And so these 2 especially really help the Madhyam to keep making further and further progress, right? Whereas the Kanishta, he recognizes the Lord, but he may only approach the Lord for getting something. Whereas the Madhyamadikari, he actually loves the Lord. He goes to the temple because, it's pleasing to the Lord, because he wants to be with the Lord and serve the Lord. So it's not because he wants to get something. He doesn't go just before exams or just before a job interview or something like that, right? And why does the Madhyam avoid the envious? Why does he avoid the envious? Because he hates them?
It hinders his progress, Mataji.
How does it hinder its progress?
Because they can influence him, Mataji.
They can influence him, or rather he may get influenced by them, because he's strong, his faith is strong, his faith cannot be shaken and so on, and yet his faith and knowledge are not the highest platform, so therefore he may get affected by the envious. And he also avoids the envious because he does not want the envious people to commit further offenses to the Lord. Because if you preach to someone envious, they become more bitter, and then they commit offenses to the Lord and his devotees. So he stays away just for his own protection and for the protection of others. So it's done with love and not with hate. This is very important. So sometimes we all have to put boundaries in our life sometimes for our own protection. But let's not do it with some hatred or animosity in the heart, but rather with humility and with a loving, soft, kind, gentle heart. Then the whole effect is quite different. And he also Madhyam, then he just simply follows the recommendation of Shastra to stay away from the envious. And also this characteristic, one of the highlights of a Madhyam means that he has some genuine compassion for the suffering conditioned souls. So this is actually a hallmark of Madhyam, one of the hallmarks. There's another hallmark, we'll get to it, that he just, there's a real awakening of compassion. At the Kanishta platform, they may preach something, but then it's not exactly out of some genuine spiritual compassion. It could sometimes be book scores, maybe it could be that they want some name, fame, or they just like to talk to people. They're getting something for themselves, in other words, basically, some kind of self-importance, however subtle that is, right? Maybe need for approval, need for fame, need to control, need to be, popular in some way. So, and one of the other hallmarks of a Madhyam is that he makes friends with devotees. So friendships, deep friendships, is something, a characteristic of a Madhyam. And, it's not easy to have deep friendships, because deep friendships means that it takes, sacrifice. It takes the spirit of forgiveness, that we must forgive. The friend may do something, and then I need to forgive, because my friend is also not perfect. He's probably on the Madhyam level too, but doesn't mean that he's perfect. So, I had an experience once. I thought I had very deep friendship with this person, but then I was hurt by something they did. And then it took me some time, to actually realize that I need to just let go and just forgive and move on, because I can hold on to it and look for justice in some way, or I can forgive and have a friend. I can look for justice and be alone, or I can forgive and have a friend. And then as I thought about it more, then I realized that actually they have forgiven me so many times for my weakness too. So friendship means that, we have to kind of really be a friend. One devotee likes to say you need a particular vitamin for having friends, and that is B1. B1 meaning that you have to be that friend for the other person, the kind of friend you want in your life. And it's not easy sometimes. And the whole Western culture is something where we just break relationships so quickly, just anything and everything, just you break a relationship. But the Vedic culture, relationships, even, there was deep hurt and so on, they were not broken. Even people didn't think that was an option, during those times. So then they tried to work it out somehow. Of course, there are also, abusive relationships nowadays and so on. So of course, I'm not saying you have to stay in an abusive relationship, but breaking it is not the first option. And, we still see this in the Indian culture at large, but it's decreasing, of course, right? So So the advantage of being situated on the Madhyam platform is that he avoids offenses, to the holy name, to the Vaishnavas, because he also chants quite deeply at this point. And so he makes advancement quite quickly, and he's very, very useful for the preaching mission. And then finally, Uttama. So what are some characteristics of Uttamadhikari? First of all, he's very rarely found. And rarely found doesn't mean that they're not there. They're there. But, they're rare. And they're so elevated, actually, that it takes one to know one. And he is a true knower of things. His knowledge is very advanced, and that means that he's realized, and that's how he's a true knower of things. And he will do good for everyone, and he doesn't see distinctions based on the body. He is actually able to see the soul. He's not like a Kanishta Adhikari who has to kind of remind himself that there is a soul, that I am the soul, I'm not the body, and others are a soul. No. So he actually sees everything in relation to the Lord. So this is his systematic vision. And he also doesn't distinguish like the atheists and envious and, all those people also. He just simply fans the spark. Wherever he sees the spark, he just fans the spark. And he sees that everyone is just engaged in service directly or indirectly, and he sees himself as actually very fallen. And Prabhupada also speaks about this whole universal brotherhood, that he doesn't have the sectarian way of, seeing other religions. He really sees the unity in all the religions. And he is able to see devotion in places we cannot see. I'm sure you've all had experiences sometimes where, your spiritual master or some other advanced devotee, he just seems to give so much attention to someone with whom, you might have an issue, or even you may have some judgment towards, like, oh, this person, But he's actually able to see devotion in places that, we don't see, because he truly sees the spark and he's serving the soul within. And so Uttamadhikari, because he's realized, even though for the sake of preaching, he may come down to the level of a Madhyam, that doesn't mean that he falls to the level of Madhyam. It just means that he discriminates. But yet, because he has the realization inside, so then when he speaks the same thing, it goes much deeper into our heart, as opposed to when a Madhyam speaks or, Kanishta speaks. Kanishta, when he speaks, is just theory. When Madhyam speaks, it does go into our heart, but when an Uttamadhikari speaks, it really goes into our heart because he's realized it. Because ultimately what goes into our heart is what's in the heart of, the others. So, so many stories, can be shared about Uttamadhikari, but, like Srila Prabhupada one time, he told his servant, there's a bug here in this room and the bug hasn't moved for a long time. He must be hungry. He must be weak. Go give him some maha flour, so that he can eat the flour. Or, there was one time Prabhupada was somewhere and there was an instruction that nobody should just directly go and see Srila Prabhupada. So the guard was, guarding him outside. And then suddenly, in the middle of the night a little bit, the guard hears Srila Prabhupada speaking, "You rascal, this is because of misuse of your free will." So then the guard is thinking, who went up? Maybe I fell asleep or something in between and somebody might have gone up. So the guard goes up to see Prabhupada and to see to whom he's speaking. And what does the guard see? The guard sees that Srila Prabhupada is talking to a mouse. And he's saying, you're such a rascal, you misused your free will. So, he's just saying no distinction between the bodies. He's seeing the soul within, and he's trying to see how he can kind of elevate any living entity, right? And, even when an Uttamadhikari corrects anyone, right? Because basically if he sees everyone being engaged in service, how can he actually give some instructions or, correct anyone? So perhaps some of you have heard, like Bhakti Siddhanta, he would say that the only person to be reformed is actually yourself. Never think yourself to be the reformer. He who thinks that someone needs to be reformed, is in need of reform himself, right? So Uttamadhikari basically preaches in this manner, and he preaches by the order of the spiritual master because he does see the misery of the living entities in some way. And there's a lot of impact of his preaching. So these are the 3 levels of perception and their systematic vision. So I want to do a little maybe exercise, few minutes. We may not finish the verse, but we can finish it next time, no problem. I think this will be nice. So I want you to think about someone you don't like or even hate. Okay, just think about someone you don't like or even hate. Everybody think of someone who did something bad to you. And then you can mark your intensity of feelings of hatred towards this person from a scale of 0 to 10. How intense is your feeling? And be honest. I'm not going to ask you the numbers. So it's just for you. So you can think about it. What's the number? How strongly do you hate this person? Number 10 may be that I can't even hear his name. I can't even see the person. But, 1, 2, 3, maybe I can talk. I can see him, but I can't really have a relationship. Something like that. So now, let us read these 2 verses again. Okay? Pay attention. He who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. And one who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? So now, can you try to see that same person in the light of these verses and see if the number has gone down? Give yourself a number again of how intense are your feelings. Okay. And then let's go another step. Maybe you can show me with hands. Anybody's number decreased? Okay. All right. So now you can also try to see Krishna's plan and mercy towards you through this person. So we're trying to see this person now as an instrument of Krishna. Okay? And see actually how this person benefited you indirectly. He was the instrument. Time has passed since whatever happened. Maybe you learned some lessons and so on through that incident. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you're still holding on. Both are possible. But see if you can try to see the person as an instrument, and how is Krishna showing his mercy to you through this person. Okay. Hopefully your number has decreased a little bit more now as you try to do that, right? So you can go really deep in this exercise actually. And every day as a practice, because we don't want to be, last week we learned how we want to be proactive and take responsibility, not just reactive. So as a proactive step, rather than waiting for something to happen and then trying to see Krishna in their heart and seeing them as an instrument, you can proactively try to see Krishna in the heart of two people around you every day. Every day, okay, Krishna is present in his heart. If you were a live class, I would say look to your neighbor and see that Krishna is there in their heart. And usually when we do this exercise, everybody starts smiling because it's wonderful to see Krishna in the heart of others. So every day, this is your homework exercise for the next 1 week and beyond. See Krishna in the heart of two people every day. And if somebody does something, particularly try to see Krishna in his heart. Okay? All right, we just have a few minutes. I'm just thinking maybe I should just take questions. There's just a little bit more left. We have to discuss the word anupashyati. And I guess the part universal brotherhood, but we can quickly go through that next week. Any questions or comments?
So Mataji, a question on the
chat. I just looked at it. Yeah. What should we do if that kind of hurt has happened a few times before and there is fear that it might happen again? How do we forgive and move on? Yeah. So one of the things in life is that this is something my spiritual master says all the time. He says that if there is something happening repeatedly in our life, we should actually know that Krishna is really trying to teach us something. And unless we learn that lesson, some situation, will keep happening. It'll keep repeating itself in different ways. The details will be different. The place may be different. The person may be different. But the essence of the emotion that we are experiencing will be kind of same. People have issues at their work. The boss does something, whatever, and people just change their job. They go to the new job. Oh, it's very nice for the first few months, and little time passes, and the same energy starts developing somewhere again. People move places, and the same thing happens. So I think, but that's one principle. That's not the only principle, is that we kind of have to look within and see, how am I contributing to the situation? What is it in me that I'm attracting this kind of energy in my life? There's something that I'm doing. Maybe we carry a victim mentality. If we are a victim, we will attack perpetrators in one way or the other, So that's one thing. Of course, it depends on the kind of hurt here. I always say that, these kind of situations, you have to act on different levels. First of all, you have to make sure about your safety. That's first and foremost. Ensure your physical safety and other safety, financial safety, and all that. And then also we have to look within our heart. And there is fear that it might, happen again. So we have to sometimes move away from that situation, actually. But just moving is not enough, as I said. But we have to also simultaneously learn the lessons and work on our heart. Both are necessary. So we may need to do, whatever is necessary on a practical level. But at the same time, we do need to work on our heart, right? Is that all right? So much more can be said for this question, but I'm keeping it brief a little bit. Okay. Anything else?
Mataji, one last question on the slide that you had on the Madhyamadhikari. And of course, we read this in Nectar of Devotion as well, that a Madhyamadhikari avoids atheists. But for the purposes of preaching, perhaps it may not be right to categorize some of those who come and attend the classes, initially the introductory classes or introductory Bhagavad Gita sessions. It may not be right to categorize them as atheists.
Yeah,
But
they're not atheists.
Yeah, but definitely they are very skeptical of spirituality and anybody practicing spirituality or preaching to do this and that. And especially they become even more skeptical when you post messages about seva, doing Annadan seva or any kind of seva. So it is a necessity for anybody who is preaching, and especially for the preaching movement, for us to also reach out to those who are very, very skeptical. Like I said, we may not be able to categorize them as atheists. So from that standpoint, avoidance is not possible.
Yeah, again, it depends, we're not, so atheists can be, it could be that somebody who just doesn't have any faith in the Lord, or somebody who's just kind of agnostic or indifferent, or just like doesn't know much, But here for Madhyamadhikari, particularly the emphasis is to avoid the envious, really the envious, not so much even just atheistic, but, really envious, So, yeah, but for preaching, of course, we try to be compassionate too, but then we have to kind of figure out how, what are the means, we may just have to be very creative. The conventional methods sometimes may not work. The traditional methods may not work. So we just have to be creative in terms of how can we still, maybe reach their heart, gently. So that's why we have the whole bridge preaching and so on, So, yeah. Yeah, we're not meant to just, but again, we also have to realize our own spiritual capacity. That's a necessity, because I think it's good to pray that Krishna send me people that I can handle. Don't send me very, very challenging people, because I don't have the capacity, So I think we do have to consider the capacity. Sometimes it's almost like adventurous, like some people are adventurers and they just like challenge, and that's fine. But then there has to be some balance in it also, because you can burn the other person, or we may get burned in that process. So some balance is essential. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty then. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful Krishna consciousness. Oh, there's one more question here. This is regarding issues with person. To improve that relationship, I try to serve him, but not succeed in fullest of satisfaction. The main thing, I'll just quickly answer. The main thing is that we don't become attached to kind of fixing the relationship. The main thing is that we just try to serve the person. And sometimes the service could be done completely without their knowledge, particularly if somebody is very envious, then, we can try to serve that person in ways that he doesn't even come to know, so to say. We can, one such form, you can regularly offer prayers for him. You can, I don't know, do something just with that, you can offer a flower to the deities on their behalf every day and let the benefit go to them, right? Without their knowledge, just be creative of ways in which you can serve them. And you have to be patient, a lot of patience. So it may take years sometimes for somebody's heart to kind of turn around. But, if we have done that, at least, our heart, will get purified and elevated through that process. I remember one example actually in my spiritual master's life, that this person would always give him a hard time, and Maharaj, I think he invested maybe for like 10 years in this relationship with just, little things like a little note of thanks, a little note of encouragement, some kind words, something service they may like, or appreciating some service that they did, just little things like that, some gift, whatever, over a period of 10 years before actually they turned around, So actually, yeah, it can take time. And so the thing is, it's not about our satisfaction. It's about how we can transform their heart in some way and purify our heart also. Okay. Giridhari Prabhu, thank you. All right, then we should end now. We are 5 minutes over. Thank you. Hare Krishna. See you all next time.